Thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Tracy Bennett. In studio with me, our certified financial planners, Tony Payne, and what's your name again?
Stephen Lucan.
It's only been 20 years or so. It's good. The heat of the moment.
Yeah, I don't get to see you often.
No, not. But here I am.
Okay, it was nerve. That was
Nice.
that was nerves.
Yeah, that's fine.
We should do that over, but we'll keep it.
We'll keep it going.
We do a lot of shows on estate planning, and we're kind of trying to break these apart into very specific conversations to help you with the overarching conversation. It can be overwhelming. There's a lot involved. Today, we're talking about estate planning decisions that shape family outcomes. Most estate planning challenges that I've dealt with, they're not really about money until they are about money, and most of those conversations don't take place until it's too late. So, want to get into that and give people some, real world examples of the why it's so important. So let's talk about the difference between fair and equal.
The difference
why
is fair and
why does
equal.
treating everybody the same sometimes cause most of the problems?
That's hard because now you're dealing. I always look at it from when you say fair and equal, the first thing that pops into my head is being a parent, multiple children, right? Maybe if it's 2 children, 50-50, 3 children, 33%, one gets 34%. Who's that going to be? Right. So I always joke, right? Say who's the special child. So when you say fair and equal, that's the first thing that pops into my head. But there might be situations where maybe there's something that's not right within the family as far as the relationships or even the beneficiary maybe not be in a position to be responsible for acceptance of wealth. There's many dynamics. I got to be careful on how I see age or just how they are how would they deal with a large sum of money? It may not be appropriate for them. And that's hard for a parent to decide, but that those situations could come up.
Well, and the ones you described too, I can't help but think equal in the equalization, the numbers, the math. I've got 5 children, 20% each. That's equal. But the idea of fair, well, what if one of them I paid for their house? Does that equate?
Right.
I mean, the idea of do you equalize the estate at the end of the day, that's another topic you can talk to your attorney about. But the idea of fair, well, one of them's making triple the money as the other one. One of them's an airline pilot. The other's a substitute teacher. Fair to me is I'm leaving that one enough to take care of going on the same vacations as I took them as kids on. So the idea of fair here, what is fair again?
Subjective.
Very subjective.
And the idea, too, of fair is your control as the person who owns it, as the couple whose things it is. So I think sometimes we just get trapped in this equal world. But you know what? Fair is your choice.
That's tough.
It is very
tough.
tough.
Thank God I only have 2 because it's 50-50.
Right.
But I grew up with
And
3.
thankfully you have a special relationship with both of them, but that's not always the case.
No,
Yeah.
Right. That's the sad part, right?
I don't think I told you this one, Stephen, but knowing the intro today, when I met Tracy's husband here, I went up. I'm proud. Very nice to meet you. It's exciting here. You're 3 boys. It's wonderful. I made up an extra boy. I forgot Tracy. So, if you ever need
that would be
one,
my husband.
If you ever need
The third one,
if
right?
you ever need one in your estate plan, I added
There you
one.
go. Nice.
Yeah, I no, thank you. I came in for 2 is all I can
See,
handle.
good.
That's enough. I take my hat off to those who have more than 2 because it's a tough job.
Yeah.
But
So,
and
it's a
especially
great-
in these moments because I can't, like I said, I came from 3 where nothing was ever equitable and just there was always one man out.
Right.
That from a parental perspective, that is tough.
Right.
Because
But even you take it a step further, it's like you look at the assets of an estate plan. Even what if there's a business and one of the kids are a part of the business, the others are not. I talk about fair and equal, and how do you decide that? And how do you make it equal if you want to equal? Or how do you make it fair?
Right.
So you guys sometimes are, we joke about this, that sometimes they're therapists, not just CFPs.
Exactly.
So at what point do you step in to help a client make those decisions, or do you just kind of let them figure it out?
And
Go ahead.
no,
You
more
go
and
first.
more. I mean, just to say it too. I mean, there is a line between a licensed therapist and a financial planner. So we might wear our
Compliance is
hat.
coming out.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But we may wear our hat sometimes, and we do. I mean,
Yeah.
relationship counselor, therapist, other things too.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the idea of when it gets a little uncomfortable there, it's beyond financial planning. Maybe there's just this decision that you can't make, and it keeps coming to a head, but you can't make it. That may not be financial at all. There might be an emotional block there. So knowing when to call that as a professional too, or when to draw that line of, you know what, this may not be a financial issue. There may be something else, and have to think about how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you do that the best way, polite way? You don't want to, tick someone off or offend someone, but at the same time, I think this decision-making process is not involving finances right now. You might want to talk to another expert. That's a tough thing to say.
Or you just try to give them perspective, right? And here's things we have talked about in the past. And ultimately you tell them, it's your decision. Sometimes you'll get a bounce back and say, am I wrong with this decision? And it's your decision. You and if you're okay with it, that's the right answer, right? It's not because if someone asks me, should I go buy a Maserati? Well, for me, no, but for you, yeah, okay, fine. That's your goal. So it's perspective, and you ask the right questions, and you help lead them to their decision so they're comfortable with it. But you sometimes will get that, am I making a bad decision? And it's hard with the estate plan, but you just try to help them, support them through that decision process.
They want that backpack of strength.
Yeah.
He told me to do it.
Yeah.
And you gave a really good example, too, with that family business idea where maybe there are multiple children and one of them's really been involved and you just see it. They're the one who's clearly running it. Employees, customers respect them. They're the face of the company. Well, the earlier you might recognize that and plan around that, maybe it's not about your retirement plan and your exit from the business, but succession planning starts really early sometimes.
Right.
So depending upon the life cycle or where the business is, the earlier you can do that and maybe buy some life insurance while you still qualify, maybe gift shares from again, there's numerous strategies, but the idea is know your goals, and then you can use different tools.
Yeah.
You alluded earlier to delayed inheritance. So, and you gave an example where, maybe the age of an offspring might be too young to handle a large amount of money. So are there other scenarios where there would be a delayed inheritance, and when should people kind of think about that?
Again, you can control it within your estate plan, like within a trust, and you can put spendthrift clauses in there saying when somebody achieves age 21, they get X percentage, 30, 35, 40. And again, these are part of the conversations, like, is 40 years old a good age? And you try to say, well, by 40, either they're responsible for money or they're not, with money, I should say. So yeah, you can put controls in there. And again, while you're alive, you have control. And that's why we say get things done while things are good, because then you have control versus not in control.
And some of this too, the idea of you want to see how they're doing, how they might handle wealth. Think about any heirs, whoever it is. Maybe you want to give the business to your employees when you pass away. That's a good conversation with your kids. But the idea of, we've amassed enough wealth. None of you are in the business right now. You're all retired. You're all doing your own things. None of you work today in this. I'm not going to let this go down, or you guys just do something else to it. I care about our long-term employees. That's a wonderful approach.
Right.
But to have that discussion of, here's why I'm doing this, here's why we chose to do this, no one's fighting there, everyone's getting laid out, the idea of here's what's what, you own that. You own that business and that decision.
Yeah.
Would that kind of fall under protecting heirs from themselves?
Sure. but you could also make the mistake, what if one of your heirs has special needs?
Right.
Right. And then they all of a sudden they're just getting a large sum of money, and maybe they're not equipped to manage that kind of wealth. So again, every scenario is different, but that's the importance of having good advisors, and how much wealth do you need? That's, again, a decision process, but it's all an important part of having a good financial plan.
I want to talk about a blind spot, and that is the blended family.
Oh yeah.
That's a big one, right?
Yeah.
Let's kind of talk about the complexity of that and what that looks like from the estate planning
lay it out.
perspective.
Lay out the blended family.
Yeah, in this case, think of a step parent. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
So again, a step sibling's parent, somebody who's remarried, or maybe not even remarried. You've lived together with this long-term partner after being married. You're never getting married again. You've had kids perhaps, or even that blended family, kids with two different parents. So the estate planning gets a little more complicated, only to do what you want, though. Because back to it, there's defaults. There might be that default where you've listed your spouse or your ex-spouse or someone like that. So to override all that's where estate planning comes in.
I think of yours, mine, and ours. When you've got kids
Well, money changes people,
Yeah.
right? So if you think about the children of the parent who's getting remarried, they may love and like that the new family member, but people are going to say, what's going to happen with our inheritance, right? And then
It's not your inheritance yet.
No, that's
Right,
exactly
let's
it.
just say
But
that.
That's a good point,
money,
though.
but
Sorry.
money changes people, and that's
Yes,
life.
and
That's
but
reality.
They're akin to each other.
Right.
I have said it 1,000 times to people that I care about. Just because it's your mom's doesn't mean it's
It's
automatically yours.
No, but people think that way,
Yeah,
right?
it
But
is true.
it's very true. But then how does the remarriage? Okay, now you're bringing in a new husband and wife, and each of them have children from a prior marriage. How is that all going to be dissected? And there are solutions, and that's why I don't want to tell you how to do it today, because I don't know what the situation presents itself. But there are solutions to do it and protect and make everything harmonized, and everyone is in a good spot. So there are ways to solve those problems, but that's where having a good financial planner, a good attorney, all can help with those decisions.
And that scenario would be tough when you're choosing an executor or an executrix, because who do you choose? And is the most responsible person the best choice always?
Right, but those roles they're just carrying out your wishes. They're not making decisions. So that's.
But don't they? Well,
They-
this is a legal question, probably.
Yeah.
But they
If
have
that's the question to
some
ask.
decent amount of power.
Well, yeah, and that's where the idea of it does matter. I mean, whether you're living with your partner, you've been in your 60s, 70s, you both have your own homes, someone sells a home, you move in together. Well, you're thinking of it from your perspective. Your kids in their 30s or 40s are seeing it a whole different way. And again, there's two different sides to this. You might be on either end of it, but the idea of if you are that person who's in your later years and you've consolidated houses, well, no, I don't want my other person gone, so I'm going to make them the executor. Maybe they don't get along with the kids. Maybe the kids aren't there. So the idea of who you pick really matters because, again, like you're saying, the wishes can be laid out, but how they get executed, the intent behind it, how much friction's there,
Right.
That's, again, where it's your choice. So if you've listed that, your children there and you have that long-term partner, think about how are they going to interact if I'm not here, and you might make a change.
Oh my gosh, I've seen people go to war over salt and pepper shakers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
it does change when a person passes away. It just everything is money. People look at the chair as money, and everything becomes money.
Yeah,
The vet bills.
Right. The easy answer, the easy recommendation there is make sure that's discussed for the new couple getting married before you get married.
Yeah.
How are we going to pass our finances? How are we going to manage our finances before we get married? Because we each have children, they're going to be impacted by it, and we just want to make sure everyone's in a good spot.
And that's where I smile as you say that, Stephen, because I know we keep, as a planner, very logical to us. And I kind of joke, is that a third date conversation? Most people don't have it. But when you're working with a planner and you have that ongoing relationship, I've moved in with so-and-so, or I'm seeing so-and-so, or maybe they'll be a part of the meeting now. That becomes that natural transition of, well, should we get updated documents? What are your intents, your goals? Right. And that's where that ongoing process and
you're going
the way we think of it.
Right, you're going from a me to we for a second time, right? And it also includes now children. So, yeah.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
When I was doing my research, this came up, and I'm going to just, it may not be relevant, but let's give it a shot. So when you're coordinating estate intent with financial reality, so what happens when estate wishes don't match and how assets are actually held?
I smile because I think of
worms,
just picking one example, the 4th of July, the summer place that the family loves to go to, the financial reality may be, that's a decrepit place from the 70s. It needs a new seawall, a new deck, a new everything, and the family may not have the money to pay that $120,000 or more for a lot of those permits and everything for the deck and the dock and all of it. So the idea that is that financial reality match up with what's there in the documents even.
Yeah.
There's a family trust that says you can never sell this property and it's stuck here and you've just got an inheritance. It's a liability almost.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one example.
And one heir can afford the new roof, the other heir cannot.
Right.
Who's going to make, what color are the walls going to be? That's the big one, are the vacation cabins, homes, call it a cabin, but it could be a four room cabin per se. But the vacation homes are always a big one. First generation who receives it, pretty easy. When you add to the third generation, that's when it starts to get a little complex. And rarely you get past the third generation before it becomes a timeshare. And who's paying for what. And again, there are solutions to it, but you have to have the conversations, and people have to know what they're signing up for.
Yeah, if you think we're getting in the weeds of things and kind of brush that off, I hate to say just wait. I hope you don't wait.
Right.
But the idea of what the family might argue about, the smallest things, what might seem like in hindsight, the smallest things that, you know what, with a couple hours and a few $1,000s, could I have avoided all of that? Perhaps. And that's what you don't know if you're not working with a team.
Yeah.
So it sounds like dividing assets is not the bottom line. The conversation starts first.
Yep.
I guess things going. So thank you so much. This is good information.
Good.
We hope you'll come back. We hope you'll like and share with your friends. Thanks for joining us.
Boxland Media. Think big,